Welcome everyone to MATHurdays. Math's so fun, we do it on Saturdays. My name's Teresa Wills, and today I'm coming from Westmoreland State Park in Virginia. It's near King George Colonial Beach. I am using their Wi-Fi here because there's no cell signal, so I'll be keeping my video off for the session. And if I pop in and out for a minute, I'll be right back, but I'm so happy everyone's here. Let's go ahead and jump right in. My contact information is on slide 2. And on slide 3 are some links that you might like, including templates for online learning and many, many more MATHurdays that I have done in the past. There's over 50 on there, spanning from kindergarten to calc and everywhere in between. And let me know how you all are doing. If you come on down to slide 4, go ahead and tell us like your successes, celebrations, things that are going well in your life. And on mine, I put down that this park is known for their shark teeth, and I actually found 2. And Stacy, how's it going in Arizona?
Oh, it's nice to have a 30-degree cool down. It's muggy, but yeah, we needed the rain. We needed it desperately.
I bet. And goodness, July in Texas. It's cooler down there too?
Quite a bit cooler this year, yeah.
All right, folks. Well, we have a lot of people registered for today. I see that we have quite a few regulars, people who often come to MATHurdays in here. I'm going to rely on you all a little bit for my eyes if I get disconnected. But today is all about primary word problems. We're really going to get into what word problems look like in the primary grades and when you should use technology, like when we should break out the laptop carts or head down to the computer lab and actually do math curriculum. So to get us started, I'm going to jump on down to slide 7, and we're going to start off with a routine, and it is called Numberless Word Problems. Let me put the link in the chat. Thanks, Lisa. There you go. And the way I like to do numberless word problems is similar in a face-to-face classroom. I really like to be able to see how many ways my students are thinking. And in a face-to-face classroom, I'll often have them put up fingers, like I have 1 idea, 1 thumb goes up. I have 2 ideas, 2 fingers go up. I have 3 ideas, 3 go up, and more. On this slide, you can do the same thing by putting your name in where it says student. So if you come on down to slide 7 and put your name in where it says student, I also see we have lots of people who just arrived. Hi and welcome. You're going to jump into the slides for today. I'll put the link in the chat. And we're down on slide 7. The best way to make this interactive is for you to put your name in one of those little boxes that says student. And we're going to start off with a routine called Numberless Word Problems. All right, let's see. It looks like some folks are, okay, they're there. Alrighty, so let's see. I see a lot of names coming in. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you click on this link, open up the Google Slides, and type your name on one of the student boxes on slide 7. Awesome. I'm going to read you the beginning of a numberless word problem. And I want to know, like, what questions could you ask about this? So it says that there are ducks in the pond. A horse ran past and scared some ducks. They flew out of the pond and landed on the grass by the barn. If you can think of a mathematical question that you could ask, you're going to change the text box on slide 7 with your name in it. You're going to change it to red. That's our first color of the rainbow. If you can think of a mathy question. If you can think of at least 2 different mathy questions, you're going to go to the next color of the rainbow, change your text box to orange. And if you can find 3 mathy questions, you're going to change your text box to yellow. And you can keep on going down the colors of the rainbow. Let me know how many math questions you think you could ask with the numberless word problem on slide 7. And you can continue to color yours as you have more ideas. Let's start off here with Kathy. What math question do you think you could ask about this?
Sorry, morning. I was thinking about how many ducks stayed in the pond and how many ducks were on the grass.
Awesome. All right. I'm also going to be going in with my teacher hat on. You said ducks in the a pond were one part, ducks in the grass is the other part. So you could ask about that part.
Yeah.
Remy, what would you ask?
Actually, I was thinking the same questions.
Same one. That happens a lot. So keep thinking of more. And if you do think of more, you can show me by changing the color of your text box and I'll know to call back on you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Let's hear from Lisa.
How many more ducks stayed in the pond than flew to the grass?
Cool. So we have our how many more. In primary grades, especially if you teach that, more and fewer are rather tricky words for young kids. So bringing those up as often as possible is great. Let's see, Laura, you've got yellow. Let's hear what you have.
Buenos dias, good morning. So I was talking to my brother who's in Tokyo right now covering the Olympics, and we were talking about speed. So I think that's why I have speed on my brain, because I want to know the speed that the horse ran out of the barn and how much faster the horse was running than those ducks. I think I have speed on the brain.
Very cool. Let's see, Linda, what are you thinking? And Linda, feel free to share if you get your mic working. If not, no worries. We'll go to Raha, and then if you want to speak afterwards, we can do you next. Go ahead, Raha. What else do we have?
Hi, Teresa. Most of the questions I had in my brain are kind of taken, but I was also thinking about how far away is the pond from the grass or the barn, if that makes sense.
Awesome. We are getting so many great questions that we could ask. And one of the nice things about numberless word problems is I'll typically write up all of the questions that students think of. And then we'll say, what other information do we need to be able to answer these questions? And then on different days, I'll use their questions as the warm up, and they get to start to insert some numbers. So they get ownership of their own mathy question. They get to put their own numbers in, and it's unique and it's more student centered. Let's head on down to slide 8. I'm going to give you a couple clues. This time it says that 7 ducks flew out of the pond and landed by the barn. There are fewer ducks in the pond than in the barn. So how many ducks could be in the pond? If you grab any text box, you can put your thinking in there. Awesome. All right, I'm going to start off with this 5. If that was you in yellow, tell us why 5 would work.
Hi, Teresa, it's Raha. So I like my total to be even numbers or multiples of 5. It's a weird thing I have. So 7 plus 5 will make 12. That's why I said it's 5, because 5 is a number less than 7, and there are fewer ducks in the pond by the barn.
Awesome. So we have a rationale for 5, that it's fewer than 7. And I love that you also brought up that other number, that 12. There's this other kind of thing happening. Other question it could answer. How about if you put 6 or less? How do you know? And what does less mean?
This is Lisa. I can imagine on a number line, if I were working with young students, that they can look at their 7 and then they can count back and say that 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0. And I know that less means a smaller number.
Cool. I noticed that you are part of the 0 club. If you think that 0 would work, go ahead and change your text box. Let's make those ones orange. And I'm curious about the person who put 1 through 6. Why you put 1 through 6 and not 0 through 6? What's your thinking with the idea of 0 and 1?
Hi, Teresa, it's Kathy. I was originally going to go with 0 through 6, and then I thought that would make a very interesting problem. So I thought it would be a more interesting problem with some ducks in the pond and some that have flown away.
Very cool. So some are still in the pond. That's why there's the 1. And we can come back up to our original question. We could ask, I often get students who say that you could even have a -1. What on earth could they be thinking if they thought -1? If you have ideas, pop them in the chat. What could they be thinking? I love these that are coming in here. A duck maybe went somewhere other than the barn. Perhaps -2 is like 2 ducks flying. Maybe it's an egg. Maybe 1 duck didn't fly, but it ran. So what we're doing here is we're expanding this numberless word problem even more. We're making it so it's not just there's always one answer to something. It is your answer could be correct if you can find a way to prove it. And that's what we really want students to get into with their problem solving. Another one that they'll say is, kids are always obsessed with animal butts. So they're like, oh, the duck put his head under and all you see is his little tail butt sticking out. And I hear that one a lot too. So always good fun. Alrighty. So this is numberless word problems. If you are ever interested in doing them, I recommend the protocol on slide 9. Sometimes I'll use a pair share also to get kids talking. Other times I'll do doubled up breakout rooms, just some variation there. And since we're talking about primary kids, I wanted to give you all some time to tinker with essentials. So on slide 10, the question that I'm asking is like, what is essential for kids to know with technology? Because coming out of the pandemic, I bet so many of us were wishing if I had only taught them this before the pandemic, I could teach so much. And then you can insert your word there. And so what do we have to teach kids so that they can be successful in their world? And I'm going to put you in some breakout rooms. There are 4 slides I'd like you to just explore. And you can explore together with your mics on. There's usually lots of giggling. Starting on slide 11. And then you can just pick any slide you want from below. You're going to make a funny farm and make it ridiculous. Please have some pigs flying and more. I already see we have people starting, so that's fabulous. And then the others down below are just 3 different word problems. They start on slide 51. But just tinker with those and ask yourself, what is it that kids really need to know with technology to be successful in, working on slides and being a member of their, being a digital citizen. So let's see, I'm going to create breakout rooms. All right, rooms are open. You should be able to get an invite. Sometimes though, you might need to minimize your browser window because Zoom likes to hide behind stuff. But tinker with those and we'll come back in 10 minutes and chat about what is the technology that kids really need to know. And folks, if you can still hear me, go ahead and minimize your browser so you can find Zoom. And you'll see that you have a little invite to go to a breakout room. All right, folks, welcome back to the main room. I know we had a lot of fun in these different rooms, creating the farms and looking at the story problems. I did ask you to use the lens of, gosh, what should we bother taking time to teach our students in terms of tech skills so that they can be functional in their worlds? I want you to think of all the tech skills that you just used while I kind of gallery walk us and put them in the chat box. What are all the different tech skills that students needed to use to make the upside down goats on slide 13? To figure out how to make that barn fly on slide 14. To make the fences different sizes on slide 15. To make the barn tinier and the rooster larger on 16. To make all the animals move all around the farm on slide 18. Slide 21, we have lots of animals out and about. We've got some clouds over there. Same with 22. 23, we've got a big, huge fence and a big cloud. Slide 24 has the Thanksgiving turkey I want. And I love the way here on slide 25, Laura created an array. So, you know, we might have this task to do that just seems fun and silly, but we can also give students very particular things to do. Create something that has over 9 animals and write the number sentence, or create an array and show different ways you can find the array. So we're about to go into our rich task, but one thing I find really important to talk with teachers about going into the rich task is there are some skills that need to be taught. We do need kids to have time to duplicate, to search for images on the internet, to control D or duplicate it, to drag and drop and more. And it's not just a skill for remote learning, it's a skill that they will continue to use for their entire lives. We're only going to be doing more computer work. And control Z, absolutely. One thing that I really like about these activities is that it allows for mistakes to be okay. Like if you accidentally made the barn ridiculously stretched out, like that's okay, it was a funny farm. And on the left-hand side, you'll notice there is even a little note to caregivers. I really like to send this home for students to do if they have computer access at home, because their parents can support them, but I let them know, like, support with your words and your pointer finger, not by actually pushing the buttons for the students. So there's that also. And then we get into some of the mathematical problems. Again, they're practicing duplicate, drag and drop. But take a look at the uniqueness of, even if you're in person and you decide to go down to the computer lab, what it's like to see everybody's word problems and the way that everyone approached it differently. I'm going to gallery walk on my screen, but you are more than welcome to do it on yours at your own pace also. So if you like in the chat box there, go ahead and answer us. Why is it important that students in primary grades, especially this K1-2, why is it important that they get to see other people's interpretation of this story problem? Why might we want them to see each other's work? Do we think our kids are going to be copying? And then what does that tell us about those students? How can we support them more? Do we think they're going to see other things? Laura, I love the way that you said it isn't cheating. Could you expand on that for us?
Because we were virtual last year, we did everything on Google Slides. And at the beginning, the kids would say like, oh, she's looking at my slide, or so-and-so is on my slide, or so-and-so is looking at my slide. And we would have to have conversations about it isn't cheating. It's expanding your viewpoint, looking at somebody else's visual. You can borrow ideas, you can build on their idea. We just have to help our kids move away from using that word, because that's their mindset is like, oh, so-and-so is looking at my stuff, that's cheating. It isn't. It's just giving you a different way to go.
Absolutely. And Stacy, you mentioned making it your own. And oftentimes when people start using Google Slides for the first time and they can see everybody's, they are skeptical that kids will actually make it their own. How did you feel that you had the freedom to kind of make it your own?
I mean, because that's one thing I even do as an instructor. You take other people's resources and you just tweak them, you adapt them, make them your own, take it, just that one extra level, and students will do the same thing.
Absolutely. And what I'll also typically see is a student make like 100 ducks fitting in that pond, like so that they don't even fit anymore. And someone else be like, oh, that's a good idea. I want 100, horses or cows or something else. So it's still different, but it does exactly what you said. All right, folks. The rich task we have today is rather simple, but the mathematics that I really want to pull out of it is pretty amazing. So we're gonna head on down to slide 95. This is the reason why we do a rich task. You'll see all of these. And I have a problem solving oath for us on slide 96 that I'll have us read together. And then if you would like to take this pledge today, go ahead and put your name in the chat box. It says, I, insert your name, promise to try my best. I will make sense of patterns and numbers. I will use manipulatives and drawings. I will make mistakes. I will ask questions. I will listen to other ideas. Here's the big one for today. I will stay engaged by always trying to find another solution or representation. I am a problem solver. I make the world a better place. If you want to pledge that, go ahead and put your name in the chat box there. Oh, so many great pledges here. And our problem is on slide 97. It says, Farmer Bob goes to see his animals. They're all mixed up in different areas. He sees 18 legs. What animals might he see? I'm going to put you back in breakout rooms. You'll notice that group 1 has slide 98 to work on. Group 2 has slide 99 and so on. The problem's conveniently on your left, along with a couple pieces of clip art that I typically give students. However, that's not the exhaustive list. Feel free to use the interwebs any way you like. Alrighty, let's get these started. Alrighty. Your breakout rooms have started. You should see a little thing that says, hey, come join this room, but you might need to minimize your browser. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main room. I thoroughly enjoyed the laughter and all the out of the box thinking that people did in here. It was absolutely fantastic. So we didn't quite have as much time as we typically do when solving this problem. Part of it is that it is, such a simple one, but as you saw, you used up that full 10 minutes with finding out, okay, let's think outside the box. So I've selected a couple that I'd really like to kind of talk about with very specific questions. And these are questions that I would also ask my students in primary grades. And it starts off on slide 39. So if we want to come down to 39, the question I have for this group is, what's important to do in order to stay organized? You know, you're putting all these legs on, like, what did you have to do to stay organized, to know how many to put on there, where to put them? What's your thinking?
I'll start for group 4. We actually didn't get to that point, but we knew it was going to happen. We were just trying to be kids and thought, okay, we're just going to go. But I guess we were organized in that we lined them up. We grouped them into 4s and 2s. But certainly we would need some kind of organization to make sure we had all sorts of possibilities accounted for. So yeah, we grouped the legs for animals that had 2s, like the birds, when we needed to. And we worked from left to right. I guess that's organization, but it's certainly not organization of keeping track of all the possibilities.
Gotcha. Anyone else in that group think about organization when you did this?
I think the other things that we did was we keep track of whether we are getting 18 or not.
Yes, that is a big one to bring up, especially with our primary kids, because we'll start adding a whole bunch and we'll go over 18. I also noticed that you use numbers and symbols to keep organized. And I'm going to put that scribble nice and bright in yellow so you can see it. Those numbers and symbols are one way that we keep organized. And it can help us to know when we're adding another set of legs, if we need to take it another one away, and so on. Also on slide 40, this group was working on keeping organized as well. So I'm curious, what were some things that you had to keep in mind in order to stay organized?
Hi, Teresa. So as we were working on our tables, I think we were just keeping running count in our minds. I think there probably could have been a more organized way to do it. I think the tables helped us see, but probably like even as we were talking to each other, sometimes we'd have to go back and like recount or keep tally. One of us would have to keep a tally of if we had hit 18 or not. So if I were to do this again, or if I were to do this with kids and kids were doing this, like there might be a way for them to keep a running tally when they're getting close to 18 or when they hit 18 on the table.
And I also can see some very specific math happening on your tables. You mentioned tallies, but you have 4 geese and all of a sudden it turns into an 8. So this idea that like we know that sometimes we multiply by 2 or we double it, sometimes we multiply by 4. And can you tell us about the bees?
I was sharing with my group that I've been playing a guessing game with my summer school kids, and we were doing a multiplication problem that also had animals in it. And one of the kids guessed an insect, and the kids had a really hard time guessing correctly. So I was just being untraditional and throwing a honeybee for a honeybee farm in there.
Yes, farmers frequently have bees. They help pollinate all of their crops, and farmers love bees. Awesome. Let's come on down to slide 41, because since we're thinking outside the box, I'd love to hear how group 1 thought outside the box. And I stole a quote from them. I'm going to make this really bright so you see it. They were talking when I snuck in their room, and I heard them say, you know, you'll need at least one two-legged animal. Well, I want to challenge that. What was your thinking, guys?
So I ended up doing a seminar on inclusion and disabilities this week, and also found out that a young person I know is going to be using a wheelchair possibly soon. And I started thinking about rescue dogs that would have 3 legs. So I wanted to challenge the 2-leg, 4-leg thing, and I thought of rescue dogs and inclusion. And then I thought, well, you know, you had put a picture of 1 leg, horse leg down there. And I thought, well, when we see pictures, we don't always see all the legs. And some of them may be still in the barn, and we only see one of the 4 legs. So we could have different numbers of legs other than 2 and 4.
Absolutely. And we've got our rescue dogs in there. I know my puppy, he still has 4 legs, but boy, he's been using 3 for the last like 2 years or so. So it's great that you put that in there. And again, it gives us students the idea of, I can make a correct answer if I can defend it. And that's the problem solving, the critical thinking that we get away from when we give just, there's only one right answer. All right, we've got just a few more I'd love to take a minute to look at. On slide 42, I captured this image before they finished it. So slide 42, there's a little table on the right. I'd like you to grab a text box there. And what do you notice about the table? Once you see somebody else's reasoning, you can tell them that you agree with them by changing their font to bold. And indeed, you all are hitting on a lot of the important concepts. We started off by saying what is important to do in order to organize. And now we've done this idea of a T-chart. Some students will do the column with 18s and others won't. Awesome. And the idea that there's multiple variables, so we can even get into upper elementary and middle school with that. There is a final thing I wanted to tinker with. Slide 43, I added spaces to their tables because I was wondering if there's anything that could go in between these. And the idea of like, if not, why not? So we can get into the idea of those odd numbers for 2-legged animals. And finally, a big idea that really comes out of this task, and the reason I recommend people do this task before they break out the base 10 blocks and talk about borrowing and regrouping, is because it gives kids a context. When I break apart 4 legs, like I break apart a 4-legged animal, I can get 2 sets of 2. And when I want to combine things together, I need 2 2-legged animals in order to make 1 4-legged. And that's the borrowing and regrouping that we see so often, but taken for granted. So in this task, I hope you saw a lot of ways to get kids to organize their thinking, their data, and ways to bring out this idea of grouping, regrouping, and ungrouping in a context that is rather conceptual. I did have some other questions that I was thinking of on slide 45 as it guided me through it, but since this was such a jam-packed day today, I hope you've gotten a couple things that you can use right away with your primary kiddos, and also tools to make it that they know how to interact with Google Slides. And then slide 47 has some upcoming things. If you're interested in coming to others, I'll stay tuned if you all have any questions, but thanks for joining me for MATHurdays in my wilderness adventure out here in Westmoreland State Park. I'm gonna go collect some more shark teeth.
Teresa, I'm being nosy.
Yeah, go
But,
ahead.
Are you taking a couple of days off? And are you spending it at the park?
So August 7th is my anniversary, and my husband and I, every year, we do all the things, all the chores that we'd normally have to do that day, like cooking and cleaning and things like that. And we do them the day ahead of time so that we can be just totally lazy and enjoy our time together without having any chores to do. And that includes checking emails and even doing MATHurdays. So that's the 7th. And I'm hoping to go to Florida, but the Delta variant is making me think we might need to cancel our trip. So that's why
That's so
there's those
cool.
little spaces.
Well, I hope you can still go and enjoy some time, because I feel like in the fall or winter we might shut down for a little bit longer anyway. So I hope you can have some fun.
Thank you.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi
Hi,
there.
Teresa. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I missed the first question because I came in a bit late. The one about the 7 dogs flew out. I noticed that the only number there, maybe I got, maybe I just wasn't paying close attention, but I noticed that we only have one number. So I'm wondering how you solve that problem.
So that was like the warm up with the numberless routine on slide 7. Is that right?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, so I really like to use this routine because we started off with slide 6, and the kids start asking all the questions. How many more ducks? How many total ducks? How many, all these different great questions. And it gets them using words like more, less, fewer,
Right.
and those type of words that are tricky for primary kiddos.
Right.
Once they can think of some questions, I give them the question on slide 7. And the whole purpose of this is that they start to realize that word problems could have multiple answers depending on your justification of the problem.
Right.
And so that's really what this numberless word problems are all about.
Right. Okay, great. Because I also realized that you couldn't, it would be hard to solve this because we only have the one number. So, okay, I get the purpose.
Right.
Now.
And then, sometimes when I use the kids' problems in class, I say, only reveal one number first and then get all the ranges of answers. And then I'll say at the very end, like they're presenting their problem to the class, I'll say, okay, you can give them the second one and give them like the only one answer choice. And it's just kind of our like finale almost, or exit ticket. And so the majority of our time is spent with multiple answers, but if I want, the student who's presenting will put both in and only have one answer.
Right, right. So all the numbers in there, the 0 to 6 and all of that, is just like explaining the less than 7 or fewer than.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure thing.
Teresa, I also have a question about, not a question, but the word viewer. And I'm just kind of like thinking about in the classroom with students learning English. So when they are trying to understand it, do you kind of like let the student explain it to each other, or how would you do that?
Yeah, the one thing I didn't do today as much is pair share, and I do that a lot more with kids. And so, you know, as soon as I put up the 7 ducks flew, I'll often give them a chance to pair up together and think of multiple answers and then bring them back. But the idea being that they can get these multiple ideas and they can justify that range.
Thank you.
Teresa, I just want to say thank you again today. It was great fun. And I can see junior high kids having fun doing this activity, just sort of a stress-free activity. So thank you.
Absolutely. It's great for junior high, especially when they have to prove that they've labeled all the possibilities. So they will likely do a T-chart. They could graph this. You could look at the number of 2-legged, 4-legged, and then ask them what other animals have different types of legs, and can you make every single possibility out there? And it makes their tables pretty interesting. All right, folks, I'm going to change the sharing status so that we can preserve our great thinking. So it's back to viewer, and have a great rest of your Saturday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.